Hi, and welcome to our channel. So I'm Yana,
I'm Arlington.
And I'm Peyton.
and today we're going to be talking about the Orobranchaceae family. We're going to get into a little bit about what plants are part of this family, but let's dive right in.
While there are a few species of the family Orobranchaceae all over Utah, there are only two species that are native to our area, and those are the paintbrushes, which are within the grouping of the broom rapes. Specifically, the desert paintbrush is the only species native to this area.
So a couple of characteristics of this family is they all are hemiparasitic, meaning that it takes nutrients from its host plants but is still able to photosynthesize itself. They can be chlorophyllous or achlorophyllous. If it's chlorophyllous, it just means that it has chlorophyll and is able to go through photosynthesis, but if it's achlorophyllous, it has no chlorophyll, so is not able to do that. They have spiral and opposite leaves. They have fleshy stems, which just means it's a little bit hairy. Bisexual flowers, meaning that they have both male and female reproductive parts. And a 4x2 stamen, which means it's tetradenymous.
Some further characteristics of the Orobranchaceae family is that it's characterized by its herbaceous stems and simple leaves. This plant is generally very recognizable with its reddish flowers and lack of green color. Due to their hemiparasitic tendencies, these plants tend to grow right at the base of other plants like shrubs. We can see this in the picture below with the pink plants growing by this shrub.
The distribution of the Orobranchaceae family within Utah is found mostly in dry to moist soils near canyons, mountains, and the western and southern desert areas. It's specifically found in the Mojave Desert in Utah and near pinyon or juniper woodlands, which is very evident in the fact that we actually saw a desert paintbrush in our first field trip.
So next we're going to get into a little bit of ecology of the Orobranchaceae family. So first, starting with the community aspect of ecology, the desert paintbrush can be found near dry bushy slopes in sagebrush scrubs. Pollinators aid these plants in reproduction because they wouldn't be able to reproduce if they weren't pollinated on. And it creates competition and dominance in other species because it relies on other species to be able to get nutrients and water from them. And with the broom rapes, they're dependent on other plants for nutrients, just like every other plant in their family, and they can cause total plant failure in areas that are heavily infested.
Because this plant is a hemiparasitic plant, it has both good and bad ecological roles. We see this when these plants damage crops surrounding it, leading to an estimated effect of 20 to 100% of crop death once infested. Not only can this damage the crops, but it could completely wipe them out. One of the good roles of this plant is that it has traditional/ethnobotanical uses. This means it could help you out or even save your life.
Pollinator relationships. So, for those of you who don't know, the definition of pollination is the transfer of pollen to a stigma, ovule, flower, or plant to allow fertilization. And within the Orobranchaceae family, pollination mostly occurs through insects and some rare cases birds. And this happens because these pollinators are attracted to the sweet, sweet aroma of this plant. And after pollination actually occurs, these plants produce seeds that are then carried away in the wind, and they land somewhere else, and once they have landed that somewhere else, they become new plants.
So next we're going to jump into some traditional and ethnobotanical uses of the Orobranchaceae family. Broom rapes are used in traditional medicine to treat conditions such as respiratory infections, digestive disorders, and skin conditions. Broom rapes are also found primarily in Illinois, Kentucky, Tennessee, North Carolina, and New Jersey around the country, but can be found in different parts of the world. As you can see in this picture right here, broom rapes are achlorophyllous, so they lack the color green because they're missing the chlorophyll. So they primarily take on more of a purple color with some yellow in the middle of it and a little hint of blue.
The next plant is the purple witchweed. This plant's really awesome because it's purple, and purple is my very favorite color. It's just such a pretty color. This plant also helps treat malaria. Going along with that, it's used in traditional medicine to treat a variety of ailments, not just malaria, but also including fever and diarrhea. Although this plant is like super colorful, it is chlorophyllous because we see that there's green in here, meaning that there's chlorophyll in this plant. This plant is also mainly found in Africa.
So the northern ground cone is our next plant that we're going to go over. And this is traditionally found within the northern hemisphere, specifically within the Pacific Northwest temperate rainforest climate. And as you can see on our presentation, in traditional Chinese medicine, the roots of the northern ground cone have been used to treat conditions such as rheumatism, arthritis, and paralysis. And rheumatism is basically just a general umbrella definition of any disease marked by inflammation or joint pain.
And the last step on our ethnobotanical journey is the Egyptian broom rape. Although you may think it's found in Egypt, it's commonly found in California. The first time it was spotted was in a tomato processing field in California. It's used in traditional medicine to treat conditions such as asthma, bronchitis, and fever. This also has really prominent colors of purple, lacking the chlorophyll.
Now we're going to dive into a couple different interesting facts about the Orobanchaceae family. First off, their figwort-like flowers are parasitic on other plants. They grow on their own, but grow better when parasitizing their host plant roots, which basically means that they can photosynthesize their own energy and do all of that jazz, but they can also steal nutrients and other important aspects from their host plant's roots, which really help it itself to grow.
Our next interesting fact is about the desert paintbrush. It's able to brighten up sagebrush from anywhere between April to June months because it adds a little bit of reddish, orangey, yellow color into the sagebrush, making it a little bit more noticeable. And it's more prominent in April through June because that's when it starts sprouting its colors.
Interesting fact is that these plants don't contain any chlorophyll, so they're not primarily green. I know that you probably noticed we mentioned this a lot of times before, but it's because it's just so interesting. We saw this with the broom rape, the northern ground cone, the Egyptian broom rape. Just none of those plants have chlorophyll, and that's why they're not primarily green.
All right, next up we have the fact that seeds will not germinate unless they undergo a period of after ripening. Then they require a period of warm stratification, which is the placing of seeds close together in layers in moist sand or peat to preserve them or to help them germinate, and a stimulus for the host plant.
And as we're running out of interesting facts, we're not quite done yet. The Orobanchaceae is one of the largest families of flowering plants, with over 90 genera and 2,000 species.
To finish off our interesting facts, our last one is that these plants are found all over the world, but are most diverse in temperate and tropical regions.
And just to summarize some of our findings, the Orobanchaceae is a very interesting family as it does have very bright colored plants in it, and we learned that this is due to the lack of chlorophyll that it has. We also learned that it does use other hosts, plants, for nutrients and water to benefit itself, although it can produce and photosynthesize itself. It does a lot of damage to other plants, but can also hold many beneficial traits, as we learned about all of the euthanistic behaviors that it has.
That about wraps up everything that we have on the Orobanchaceae family. Once again, I'm Peyton.
I'm Yeneth.
I'm Arlington.
Thank you for listening to our project today.
We just also want to give a quick shout out to the SU Greenhouse for sponsoring this video. Thanks for taking the time to listen to us, and please like and subscribe to this video.
Peace.